Dividend King, one of the few places you can go in the stock market to find a super high dividend yield that still has increased year over year. This company was arguably one of the greatest performing stocks of all time up till recently. And many of you, if you're holding this stock going into the close today, notice that it was trading down pretty rapidly. And I'm here to explain to you why. Of course, I'm talking about the sin sector with MO Altria Group. In the clarity of my transparency and all the homework I present to you guys, help the channel out a little bit by hitting that like button, folks. But if you scrolled on into MO today, you'll probably notice that it was trading down a whopping 6.17% at a really odd time just before closing into the market today. Philip Morris followed suit, down 1%, and BTI only down 2.2% here, folks. Many of you are aware I am a huge investor in this group, in this space in general. With MO, I've got 180 shares, about $8,800 worth, and British American Tobacco sitting on about $8,042 worth. These things are going to be cranking out really fat dividend checks going into the end of this month that I am super excited for. I think they're paying out on the 29th, something to look forward to here. But why are these things falling off a cliff? Well, Joe Biden, folks, is just stirring the pot and making things a lot more complicated. So in today's video, I'm going to go over why Joe Biden wants to cut the nicotine levels in cigarettes. I'm going to go over this company's books for 2020. Is it still worth a buy here? Is it, is this dip a big buying opportunity in general? And where I think the future of this company is likely to be going. But let's get into this, guys, by reading through the tobacco stocks fall on widely anticipated move by Biden administration to cut nicotine levels in cigarettes. Tobacco stocks are lower after the Biden administration is said to be considering requiring tobacco companies to lower the nicotine levels of all cigarettes sold in the U.S. to a level at which they are no longer classified an addictive substance. Does that make any sense? We'll come to this in a second. The nicotine reduction policy being considered would lower the chemicals in cigarettes to a non-addictive or minimally addictive level in a bid to push smokers to either quit or switch to a lower nicotine alternative, such as nicotine gums, lozenges, or e-cigarettes. In addition, a menthol ban under consideration would target smoking in younger people, many of whom start with menthols, according to the Wall Street Journal. Now, they already banned menthols up here in Canada, so this is kind of like the balancing of what we're hearing right now is the fact that, hey, we need to cut nicotine levels down in cigarettes. I don't know how you do that. It's very hard already to gauge out nicotine levels in cigarettes because it comes from the tobacco plant. It's not like something they add to the tobacco plant, right? So putting that aside, guys, the menthol thing, I think that was an inevitability. But anyways, the changes were largely anticipated to be announced at some point during the Biden administration. A long stretch of legal challenges to any dramatic regulation is also expected here, folks. So a lot of people are up in arms about this because, again, it doesn't make any sense. You can just go onto the forums, stock twits here, guys. Some funny comments. So people will have to smoke 2 cigs to get the effect of 1. That sounds bullish to me. Wow, more control. Let the people smoke what they want. Cut nicotine down, really. And look at, guys, even since I've been making this video, there's been an onslaught of just dozens. Actually, these are really funny. A lot of people are obviously upset about this. I don't think the government should have too much control to some degree on this, guys, because like I said, the more you ban it, the more it usually gets out there and the black market starts to step in. We just saw a full decriminalization of drugs in Oregon and going across California. So why are we loosening up, all these laws and rules on one end while tightening them on another? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I'm a real big fan of this sector primarily because there's really only a few commodities in life, guys, that have been written in the history books for as long as we've been able to find history written on pyramid walls or in books in general, guys. And if there's 2 things that have been floating around in history for a while, it's gold and it is definitely tobacco or a drug-related product. So I feel like this isn't a company to underlook. And let's talk about why. First of all, these dividends, insane. Absolutely insane. Arguably, before we saw the sell-off in MO over the last few years, it was literally the best performing stock of all time due to the dividend increases. I mean, take a look at this, guys. Even if we go back 5 years, the dividend was around 52 cents a quarter, starting at around 4%. And now it's at 86, starting at about 7%. This, in fact, is the highest that Altria's dividend has ever been. And it continues to increase it instead of cutting it, which comes as a big shock to me. But then again, this might come due to the fact of, are they actually sustainably earning enough money to pay the dividend? Well, let's take a look across the different segments of this company, starting with the Marlboro cigarettes themselves. Obviously, we all know there has been a decline in the amount of people that have been smoking over, the last several years. And it's kind of neat to kind of consider this, because we all knew going into this pandemic, when people are locked at home, there's more stress. We see more ODs going on, more drug use. And yes, we've seen an increase in the amount of people that are smoking. In fact, the Marlboro cigarettes have increased in sales by 4.2%. But overall, the entire growth of the tobacco smoking sector has been nominal. It's been relatively flat, unchanged. As we can see here, year over year, guys, is these are the amount of smokable product shipment volume. And it's been, again, relatively flat, but usually it's been declining. So that's good news on that end. On the other hand here, guys, taking a look at the oral products, as we know, people have been picking up oral products. They're becoming very popular: nicotines, gums, sprays, vapes, all of that jazz. And taking a look, they've seen an actual rather large increase year over year in this segment of their products, about an 8.7% increase from 1.5 billion in revenues to about 1.7 billion. So I always find it interesting that as much as people hate cigarettes, there's always going to be like a turnaround into other products and vaping that'll just pick up for the lackluster growth we're seeing on the actual combustible side, right? And then finally, they do have a wine and spirits segment, but no one's going out, no one's partying, no one's having weddings, no one's really buying wine as much. So we have seen a decrease here by about, 10.9%, which is kind of not the best thing in the world, but we could probably consider this to be a recovery play. Once we get to the other side of this, it wouldn't be a surprise to see this segment to start to pick back up steam. And just taking a look, guys, all in all, the general story is they've seen a total revenue increase for 2020, going from 2019 when they did 19.7 billion in revenue against 2020 where they're doing 20.8 billion in revenue. Very impressive increase. Again, we're not talking about massive increases, but for a tobacco giant that has been doing nothing but declining in stock value for the last several years, starts screaming a little bit of a discount in my humble opinion here, folks. But where does the future of this company lie? Is there anything we can look forward to, or is this just going to see a continued downcline in their largest income producer being smokable products? Well, in my opinion, no. And the reason is if you've done any homework, you know that Altria made a massive investment in Kronos Group, an MJ stock. In fact, one of the top 5 largest MJ stocks in the world. And right now, taking a look at Kronos, guys, or taking a look at MO's stake in Kronos, they do own a solid 50% of the company, a whopping 146 million shares. And just taking a look, if you don't know anything about Kronos Group, guys, it's going to be neat. Well, maybe what we'll do is we can take a considerable look at their earnings as well. I'm curious if I can get this little this video to play here. There we go. I want to show you guys. They have this really nice intro video. As my laptop has a hard time handling it, that fan turns on, eh? Anyways, and I'll talk a little louder to talk over the fan, but many of you know Kronos has some pretty strong brands that they have been acquiring and kind of spreading out into a global diversification, which is good and impressive that they've been able to globally diversify at all. I never thought that I would see the day these Canadian companies could actually outreach so far into other countries, because for the raw fact that usually, you know, the United States would rather grow in their own country, produce their own tax revenue than giving it to Canada or another country. But nonetheless, it's nice to see that they have, you know, shops going on in Germany, Poland, Israel. I mean, you got so much going on down in the southern hemisphere, the northern hemisphere, so it's nice to see that this company's got a real foothold. But the reason that this is going to be so awesome is because if Biden, it's so weird that they're tightening the laws on nicotine products everywhere, but then they're loosening the laws on all these hard drugs. Is Oregon completely decriminalized everything, guys? They're trying to raise money from the MJ market to fund all of the clinics to get the homeless people and the drug addicts the help that they need, because wow, we're starting to realize it's not the drugs that are the problem, it's the mental issues people have. Drugs are just drugs. They don't have feelings, guys. But still, nonetheless, this is going to be neat to see if they can actually roll out into a Biden administration here, guys, because just taking a look at what they've achieved already, which I think is a little under impressive. I feel like they could have done better than this, but we're still in this early growing phase for the MJ market. But the net revenue, guys, has increased 97% year over year. If they can sustain this growth rate and we can start seeing over $100 million in net revenue, I would feel a little bit better. But going from 23 million to 46 million in a year, I have to applaud, but something tells me this comes from an onslaught of acquisitions, because usually these MJ companies are doing massive write-offs right now, and that's just due to the fact that they are spending a lot of capital, doing everything they can to get a foothold here. But again, guys, think about it. If Biden really loosens the law and Altria Group ever gets the hint of possibility from the FDA to interact their distribution with the MJ Kronos Group products and what they've currently got set up, I mean, we could see an unbelievable historic turnaround in something like an MO. And the fact that the wine spirits is still kind of this flat area where we're probably going to see a reverse going into the future once we get on the moderate other side of this pandemic and we can start going out again. There's just a lot of things to be bullish every time I see MO drop, because I mean, just take a look at the long period here. And this is also why, guys, MO is highly focused in the US, so obviously they're going to be affected the most by any changes that happen to US regulations on tobacco, whereas why I also love owning BTI, because BTI is more globally diversified. They got a lot going on in Japan and Europe, so I like owning both of these for these reasons, and I'm very looking forward to this fat dividend that they're going to be paying out at the end of the month, guys. But yeah, this is what's going on with the sin stocks right now, and what a weird moment to be in, where they are literally decriminalizing all drugs across the states one by one here, I think, and now they're starting to tighten the laws up on this end of it. I don't get it in particular, but nonetheless, I passed the question off to you. What do you guys think about these sin stocks in that comment section below? Stay cool, stay awesome. I look forward to catching you tomorrow.